this is a weird movie to review because it's one of those movies that, it's so good, especially when you compare it to what comes out of Nigeria, but then it's not as good as what we are used to in terms of just a global standard. Comparing it to a Hollywood movie, it doesn't really live up to that, but then it's just way better than any Nigerian movie. It feels like it's a really good production from Africa, let me just put it that way. So the story is pretty basic. It stars, our main character is called Paul Edima. Now what happens to Paul? In this universe, in this really corrupt, very busy, and that's what the one good thing that they did about this movie. They captured Nigeria in such a way that it's palpable. You can actually understand and somehow experience just how Nigeria works. Nigeria looks, I don't want to use good, but really grounded and realistic. It just has a look and a vibe that just sells the country. I'm not saying either in a positive way or in a negative way, because there are a lot of elements of corruption, the bureaucracy, a lot of politics, a lot of really dark things, gangs and stuff. But then, and they're captured really, really well. It's shot, it looks fantastic. And then now, you have this man called Paul Edima. Paul Edima's son, something happens to the son. Actually, here's the story. So you have this lady who's working for this thing, and so she's trying to help a particular community, and she's trying to help a particular community, and the other community is like, no, you cannot do this. So they want, that other community wants, they want to take over that office where this lady works. So what do? They decide to kidnap the husband and the daughter, and then they misdirect the police and the forces into believing that all that was done by a certain young man. And so the police do whatever happens to the young man. This is supposed to be spoiler free. Whatever happens to the young man happens. And then now we come to discover that the young man was the son of Paul Edima, a deacon. But is the deacon a good guy? Is the deacon a deacon as good as he's supposed to be? No, he isn't. He has a past. He actually has a dark past. And so we get to discover what he used to do before that, and then who he used to work for and what he used to do. Actually, the Black Book, the name itself, when he was working for a certain individual, because I don't want to spoil it for people, they used to record like everything that they used to do. They used to like document all the things that they used to do, and then in a certain book, and that's why now we get the Black Book, and it plays into a story in a certain way. I don't want to everything. So that's just the basic skeleton of the story. But there's a journalist who's trying to help Edima prove that the son was innocent, and trying to just there's a lot of investigation, and this is a thriller, so there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of back and forth, there's a lot of corruption, there's a lot of politics, there's a lot of bureaucracy. So this in a way just captures the nature of Nigeria and some other African countries very, very, very well. So what did I love about this movie? As I said before, it's shot well. Number two, it captures Nigeria. I have never been to Nigeria. I've never been to the country, and so I don't really know how the country looks. But I like the way they were able to make the streets feel. I like the way they're able to put us into what Nigeria is supposed to be, with the street kids, with the public transport vehicles, so you get an idea or a sense of what Nigeria is supposed to be. The direction, while I struggled a bit I'm not saying that I hate the direction, but it still feels it was a labor to go through the movie for me. But one of the positive is, as compared to what I've already seen from Africa, this was far more better than some of the stuff that I've seen in how the director was able to structure this story. First of all, it's a very convoluted story. There's a lot of things happening, and putting all those things together is obviously a challenge. And being able to just in a way make it approachable and understandable. I can't imagine what the director had to go through, visualizing everything that is presented, in terms of character, because there are so many characters. Oh my goodness, there's so many characters that we are always tempted to follow. But the director does a good job, almost balancing everything very well. Performances, I like the main character. There's another main character. There's Big Daddy or something. It was Big Daddy. There's another character that I absolutely really liked. So now when we go into what I did not like, as I said, it's a very convoluted plot. There's just so many things happening. And the one thing about visual storytelling is the simpler the better. You can get creative with how you want to shoot it, but just try to simplify your story. I don't know if they had a storyboard artist, because it feels like they did not have a storyboard artist. It feels like there was something lacking in how the film was structured. Yes, it was directed really well, but they lacked that thing that simplifies a story, which I usually compare to, I think of concept art, I think of storyboard artist, I think of animatics. These are tools that are used during the pre-production process to just simplify a film. And in this film, you just feel like that part of pre-production was either ignored or was just like, yeah, we need to storyboard this, give the storyboards to the cinematographer. As the director, I don't need to know what's going to happen. I have everything in my head. There's that feeling that they didn't actually do an animatic and see this film before it was produced. The first act and the better part of the second act, I was like, yeah, I'm in. But after we went through now the second act, the second half of the second act, we kind of plateaued. And it went like that until the end. I don't know where the energy dropped. I just felt like, it just flatlined in a way. It didn't drop. It didn't either go up. It went up, reached somewhere at the middle of the second act, and just, there was, I didn't feel like we were going anywhere, and I didn't feel lost, but I didn't feel like we were dropping. I don't know if I'm trying to make sense. Okay, without spoiling it, I'll give this a 2.5 out of 5. That's globally. Because when you look at what we watch globally in terms of storytelling, it just feels like there's just so much. The plot is, there are just so many things happening. It's convoluted. Let me just put it that way. It's a bit convoluted for the general audience, but it does a good job in giving the world an idea of how Nigeria is, the politics, the bureaucracy, all that noise. When it comes to Africa, this gets like a 3.5 out of 5, because when you compare it to most African movies, like really out there, because I'm looking at this like, a big blockbuster African movie. A lot of money was spent for it, and it's more of a thriller. It's less of an art film. So it's much better than any movie that I've seen in Africa. I've seen good movies from Africa, but it's one of those. It's quality stuff, because you can see some really authentic and grounded action and tension. Let me just put it that way, and tension. And so it feels really, really good as compared to any other African production. And I would give it a 3.5 out of 5. So it's Black Book, a movie that I would recommend. First of all, it's on Netflix, so obviously I would recommend it, because it's not like you're paying to see it on the big screens. If you're watching it on Netflix, it's very accessible, and it will depend. If you're used to African movies, you'll 100% enjoy this movie. If you've always had a problem with Nigerian movies and their formula, you'll absolutely love this movie. But if you're like used to these big blockbuster Hollywood movies and a certain level of quality, then this might be a struggle, especially when it comes to plot and story. It's a bit convoluted. I keep repeating that. So yeah, basically that's it. That's Black Book, a Nigerian movie. Pretty awesome, good on streaming, not good on the big screens. One of the best African movies that we have out there. So basically that's it. Remember to always watch what you enjoy and enjoy what you watch. Please subscribe. I have some really awesome review coming up for Gen V, and Loki is coming out soon. So subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. You are appreciated.